Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of AEW Dynamite as well as WWE NXT. February 3rd, 2021. Shout out to everybody watching this on YouTube and on Twitter and Facebook as well. I appreciate your viewership and support. If you are watching this on Twitter or Facebook, make sure you head over to youtube.com/AaronRift, no DQ, to subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on the notifications to get the latest updates. With that being said, let's get right down to the recap. A lot of happenings on both shows this week. We kicked off Dynamite. I'm starting with Dynamite, by the way, and then I'll get to NXT. We kicked off Dynamite with a tag team battle royal. No FTR. They were suspended in storyline, pulled from the match. The winning team would go on to face the Young Bucks at the Revolution pay-per-view. As far as entrances go, Jurassic Express, Inner Circle, Acclaimed, and the Young Bucks, of course, made their entrances. The Bucks were part of this match. If they won the match, they would get to choose their opponents at the Revolution pay-per-view. Anyways, match started off wild. The Bucks dove off the stage onto all of the participants pretty much. They hit a bunch of double super kicks. And Isaiah Cassidy of Private Party got on the top rope, went for a dive. And for once, I think for the first time maybe in AEW history, people actually moved out of the way. Something that they should be doing all the time. People actually moved out of the way and Cassidy crashed and burned. I actually liked this a lot, and I think we should see more of this where guys go for dives and, well, people just move out of the way and hit the floor. We started seeing a lot of eliminations. Two of the favorites in this match, we had Jake Hager and Luchasaurus, the two biggest guys in the match. Well, they both got eliminated fairly early on in the match. John Silver eliminated Hager, and then later on, Evil Uno and Silver worked together to eliminate Luchasaurus. The one and only Caleb Jacobs sent in a $2.55 super chat. Thank you for that, Caleb Jacobs. I do appreciate it. He says, hint, I have never had that NXT AEW, NXT AEW. I'm not sure what he's referring to, actually, but thank you nonetheless, Caleb Jacobs, for the super chat. I do appreciate it. And eventually, we got down to about 7 or 8 guys. Matt Jackson had been eliminated. Nick was still in it, but then the Good Brothers arrived, and the Good Brothers were trying to help the Young Bucks because the Young Bucks had teased the idea that the Good Brothers would be chosen as the opponents for Revolution. However, while the Good Brothers caused Cassidy to get eliminated, Nick Jackson was distracted by this, and MJF tossed out Nick, causing the Bucks to be completely out of the match. MJF and Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho from the Inner Circle were still in it, although MJF and Sammy were arguing, not getting along. Eventually, it came down to Chris Jericho and Darius Martin, and Jericho accidentally eliminated his buddy Sammy, but then hit the Judas effect and sent Darius out of the ring. Jericho won, meaning that he will get to challenge the Young Bucks at Revolution, and his partner will be, of course, MJF. MJF immediately got into the ring and celebrated with Jericho. It's Jericho and MJF against the Bucks at the Revolution pay-per-view. Pretty solid opening to the show. It was a lot of fun, lots of action here. We had a video package for Jade Cargill, and then later on, we had a clip shown of Shaquille O'Neal. He was on this sports show, and he basically accepted the challenge. The tag tag team match, him and Jade against Cody Rhodes and Red Velvet. Interestingly enough, though, this match will not be at Revolution. Instead, it will be taking place on the March 3rd edition of Dynamite. I was a little surprised that they're not doing this on the pay-per-view. Maybe they think that it's better to have Shaq's match be on TNT and get the most eyeballs tuning in. Either way, I was a little surprised that they're not doing this at the pay-per-view. Maybe there's something different for Shaq. Maybe they're going to do a singles match. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Maybe Shaq will face Cody Rhodes one-on-one at some point. Maybe they're going to see how this tag match goes first before going any further. But yeah, it could very well just be for the TV ratings, and maybe it was a call by TNT. TNT decided that they wanted the match on television, and AEW, they're happy with whatever TNT wants. We had an interview in the ring, Tony Schiavone interviewing Darby Allin and Sting. And before anything could be said, we had Team Taz interrupting, and they said that they will be watching Darby's match with Joey Janela on next week's show. And Ricky Starks did a little bit of trash talking, saying that Darby will need all the luck he can get against Joey Janela, and also said he's not sure if Sting is really the icon that Sting has claimed to be this entire time. Sting responded by saying that he will be there next week to make sure that it is, in fact, a one-on-one match, no outside interference, and said if Ricky Starks doesn't think he's the icon, then maybe Ricky just needs to take a little bit of a closer look. Promo was fine. It was just build up for next week, and gotta have some content with these guys to build up their upcoming match. No real issues with it. It was okay. Nothing out of this world great, but it was decent. We had a recap of Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, which led to their match. And stop the presses, everyone. This match between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker happened at 8:30, not 9:30. They actually put it in a different quarter hour. I'll be damned. Finally, the women get a different spot on the show besides that 9:25, 9:30 period. The one and only Caleb Jacobs with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Caleb. Says, Sting was and will always be my favorite wrestler. Well, a lot of people would definitely agree with you, Caleb. Sting, one of the all-time greats, and hopefully everything goes well in this upcoming street fight at the Revolution pay-per-view. Now, this match with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, I really enjoyed it. This was one of the better Dynamite women's matches, in my opinion, up to this point. Really solid stuff here from both of them. I enjoy both of them. They're both great performers, and I thought this was a really strong match. You had Rebel on the outside getting involved during the match, and we had a lot of interesting moments back and forth with these two. They fought on the outside for a while. They fought on the ramp. Rosa hit a DVD onto the entrance ramp. And then later, Britt Baker came back, hit an air raid crash for a near fall. And Britt grabbed her glove, and she was going to put on the lockjaw, but Rosa was able to get out of it. Britt got it on again, and Rosa kept reversing and rolling out of it. And Rosa eventually hit the DVD in the ring. However, Britt kicked out of that, and then Rebel got into the ring and took off the middle turnbuckle pad in the corner, and Britt Baker, taking advantage of the distraction, rolled up Thunder Rosa, but Rosa was able to kick out, and then Rosa charged at Britt, who was in the corner, and Britt moved. Rosa went into the exposed turnbuckle, and Britt put on the lockjaw. Rosa was basically knocked out, and the referee called for the bell. Solid stuff here. Yeah, the distraction finish, and I think it's being a little bit overdone, but like I said, match was really solid. I very much enjoyed it. Nick Glavin with a $2.79 super chat. Thank you, Nick. Says, might be the best women's match yet on Dynamite. Absolutely. Both of them, to me, they're the two top stars in AEW right now. When Thunder Rose is from the NWA, but I'm glad she's being used by AEW. Who knows when the NWA will be up and running again? And Britt's doing great. You know, for so long she was on the shelf and just cutting promos, and now we're finally getting to see her have some really solid matches in the ring. So definitely a thumbs up match for both ladies. So the kind of stuff that the women's division in AEW really needs, in my opinion. And I think a lot of you would agree with me on this, that we need to see more of these kind of matches. And Serena Deeb's another one that's really helping to elevate the division at this point. We had footage of Tony Schiavone talking to Matt Hardy and Adam Page backstage. This was from last week's show, and Matt Hardy was starting to talk about working with Adam Page, and Page was mad because he thought he was just in Matt's locker room to use it to change. And Matt was just like, no. But then Matt suggested they team up for one night only to get a little bit of payback on the behalf of Brody Lee Jr., -1, and take out Chaos Project for trying to ruin -1's birthday. So Page accepted this, and we had a match, tag team match. Not much to say about it. Pretty much a squash match. The storyline here, Page hit the buckshot lariat to Serpentico, and Matt tagged himself in and basically took credit for the victory. We had the participants for the Women's Eliminator Tournament announced. Several Japanese superstars as well as AEW superstars, and you can get the list of the participants over at nodq.com. And we'll talk more about NXT here in a few minutes. I see a lot of comments in the chat room. NXT was very newsworthy as well. We'll get to that here shortly. I will be talking about NXT and recapping the show, so stay tuned for that. And we had Chris Jericho backstage with the Inner Circle. They were partying and celebrating, but as soon as Jericho left, MJF wanted this closed door meeting, so he had Wardlow shut the door, and MJF had some kind of meeting with the Inner Circle members. We'll see what happens with that in the near future. We had Father James Mitchell come out to be the officiant for the wedding. Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian getting married, the highly anticipated wedding of these two, with Miro as, of course, the best man. He's the best man after all. And they did an interview before the ceremony. And basically Miro just got to insult Chuck, saying that while he's married and Kip's getting married, Chuck has never had a girlfriend in his entire life. Vicky Guerrero notified them that it's time for the wedding. We had our entrances. Jerry Lynn walked Penelope Ford down for the ceremony, and Kip and Penelope exchanged their vows. And Father James Mitchell was very vulgar, talking about how they're going to be together to have and to grope, and they will be kayfabing each other for as long as they live. And then Father James Mitchell with the classic line in weddings, "Is there anybody out there that opposes this?" And Miro was like, "Nope, we're not doing this." Miro was like, "We've seen too many weddings like this. We're just moving on here." And that's what happened. We moved on, and Father James Mitchell announced them as man and wife. They kissed, they made out, and then there was this giant package that Miro noticed, and Miro thought it was some kind of trick, because he's had experience with weddings that go wrong. So he attacked the present, only to find out that it was empty. And while this was going on, we had Charles having words with Kip Sabian, and then all of a sudden Miro's his leg was shackled, so he was trapped in the corner, and we had a huge brawl erupt. Penelope Ford ended up getting knocked into the cake because, well, you know how things go here. And Kip accidentally hit Miro. And then all of a sudden, Orange Cassidy popped out of the wedding cake and Kip Sabian got laid out. So Kip's wedding was crashed, as we all pretty much expected in this. Shout out to Cindy, who's in the chat room. Make sure you guys follow her at nodq.com/Cindy. So the segment, it was what it was. At least nobody was murdered in this wedding segment. Last time Father James met, things did not go so well. But this one, it was pretty standard. You know, somebody go with cakes. And I did like the little swerve with the package and Miro beating it up and nothing inside. I thought that was a nice touch. And Father James Mitchell was entertaining. So it was all right. It wasn't too bad. For wedding segments, I've definitely seen worse. I will say that much. We had our next segment, which was Lance Archer versus Eddie Kingston in a Lumberjack match, a rematch from last week, which a lot of people did not see live because of the whole TNT fiasco with the feed going out. And it was pretty standard for a Lumberjack match. You know, the heels would attack the babyface and a huge brawl erupted with everybody. Jake Roberts even got involved and knocked out Angelico and falling down in the process. You had Butcher and Blade getting involved. A table was set up, and Butcher ended up, well, not Butcher. I think it was Blade that got put through the table. One of them did, by a guy I'm not familiar with. He must be an AEW dark wrestler. Maybe somebody can enlighten me on who that was. I'm just not familiar with him. I'm not sure if he's been on Dynamite. He might have been, but yeah, not familiar with who the person was, and I missed his name. Bulldozer, maybe something like that. But yeah, Archer ended up picking up the win with the blackout. You know, match was fine. It was standard. Nothing too noteworthy. Everyone's talking about the ending of the show. I think people want me to get to that. Very big ending to this week's Dynamite. A lot of people talking about that. A big shocker. So we'll get to that here in just a second. We did have a segment with FTR backstage with Tully. They were mad about their suspension, and as it turns out, they kidnapped Marco Stunt. And I guess you can use the word kidnapped because of Marco Stunt's stature. Poor guy. He was handcuffed and his mouth was taped up. Bear Country, and thank you, Cindy. Bear Country from AEW Dark is the name of the team. I'm not sure of the one guy's name, but he put Blade through the table towards the end of that match. Anyways, we had our main event match, which was Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers teaming up against Jon Moxley, Pac, and Rey Fenix. Omega and the Good Brothers had new music. Maybe it's not new music. Maybe they've used it before and I just never noticed. But they have different music than what I've heard before, at least. And Don Callis was on commentary. Phoenix did a lot of flashy moves, cleaned house. Pac and Phoenix did simultaneous moonsaults to the outside onto the Good Brothers. Phoenix got a near fall with the cutter. Phoenix had a lot of big moments in this match, but as it turns out, there was a reason for that. Omega, he had a snapdragon suplex using the ropes to stall the momentum of Phoenix, and then eventually things broke down with everybody. Moxley and Omega went at it for a while. Phoenix tagged back in and then got hit with the Magic Killer, and Omega scored the pinfall on Phoenix. So yeah, Phoenix got a lot of big moments in the match, but that was because he ended up taking the fall. Cindy says it's a new theme song, so there you go. new theme song. I thought it was pretty decent, actually. I'm not the biggest fan of the AEW theme songs, but I thought this one was pretty decent for them. And after the match, the attack continued on Phoenix. Moxley went after Omega, but it was 3-on-1. And then we had Lance Archer make the save. He took out the Good Brothers, and Moxley had the opportunity to finish off Omega, but then this is what everybody's been wanting to talk about here. We had a masked man attack Jon Moxley. He unmasked, and it was Hideo Itami, a.k.a. Kenta. People will get mad if I say Hideo Itami because that's like blasphemy, because that character never really went anywhere. So you got to call him Kenta, or else it's not cool. So Kenta attacked Moxley, and there was an angle on a New Japan show last week where Moxley showed up, and they're basically having a match over the IWGP United States, or what is it, Intercontinental United States title, whatever it is. And Kenta laid him out with a GTS. So yeah, really big ending, and it's significant because for the longest time, like, people weren't sure if AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling would ever work together, but now it looks like it is going to happen. AEW expanding relationships. The wall has come down, as they say. So yeah, a lot of people very excited about this, that it looks like AEW and New Japan have a working relationship now, and we're going to see more New Japan guys working with AEW guys, and AEW guys going to Japan, and that's finally going to be a thing now, after a lot of people wondering if it was ever going to happen. So it opens up the door for a lot of possibilities, and people very excited about this now, and the possibilities, and well, we'll see what happens. People are excited about it, and it was a surprise ending. I was not expecting that ending, so I give AEW credit for that. And the main event was really good too. I enjoyed the women's match, and I enjoyed the main event. I liked the surprise with Kenta at the end. It definitely keeps things intriguing, people wondering what's going to happen. So overall, solid show from AEW. I mean, I don't think it was a top tier Dynamite, but I thought it was a good show. So giving it a solid B. I enjoyed it very much, and I'm curious to see what happens next. Let's move on here to WWE's NXT broadcast. And by the way, people in the chat room loving it so far. Nick Lavin with an A for Dynamite, Caleb Jacobs with an A+, and MVP Kev with a B. And Cindy gives it a B+, and Chris says, keep up the good work, man. I appreciate it, Christopher. So let's move on here to the WWE NXT show. We kicked off with the female Dusty Classic tournament. We had Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai versus Casey Catanero and Kaden Carter. Good match here between the ladies. Gonzalez picked up the victory over Casey, and these were semifinal matches, so now they're moving on to the final match. No surprise here. They'll be facing one of two other teams in the final match. And Anthony says, can you please read my comment about the Death Triangle? Let me see here. Okay, here's his comment. He says, do you think AEW is setting up, once Pentagon comes back, Moxley and Archer joining Death Triangle with Moxley being the leader? I don't think so. Moxley is the loner type. I really don't see Moxley being in a faction, but you never know. Anything could happen. But I just don't feel that that's Moxley's character, where, yeah, he was part of the Shield, but he's pretty much the loner type. That's the vibe I get from his character. Anyways, back to NXT. We had Toni Storm cutting a promo, vowing to win the triple threat women's title match. It's her versus Mercedes Martinez versus the champ Io Shirai at the pay-per-view. We had Austin Theory versus Leon Ruff. And Johnny Gargano was out there trying to interfere, the typical distraction. He ended up getting knocked off the apron, but then there was a double collision between Theory and Leon. Ruff got knocked to the outside of the ring, and then Candice LeRae tried to interfere. And that's when we had Ember Moon show up, and she basically picked up Candice and dragged her to the back. So it was back to business as usual. But then Leon Ruff, to make sure that Gargano would no longer be a problem, he pulled an Eddie Guerrero. He acted like he got punched from Gargano, and the referee believed it and had Gargano kicked out. That's a smart babyface. That's what all these guys should be doing whenever somebody tries to interfere. Say, oh, he hit me, and then that person gets thrown out. Like, that's the smart way to do it. So I kind of liked this. Made Leon Ruff look smarter than your average WWE babyface. So back to the match here. Once Gargano was gone, Ruff almost put away Austin, but then Austin hit his cutter and picked up the victory. Afterwards, he went to the outside and grabbed a ring bell. He was going to use it, but then Dexter Lumis stopped him. So looks like we're going to see Dexter Lumis versus Austin Theory at some point. We had Legado del Fantasma in a Dusty Rhodes Classic tag match versus the Lucha House Party. And no shock here, Legado del Fantasma won, as I expected they would. And then afterwards, we had MSK come out to the stage where the trophy was, and they cut a promo basically saying they're Michael Jackson, and Legado del Fantasma, they are Tito Jackson. I wonder what Mr. Tito thought about that line. Mr. Tito was certainly a highly regarded columnist on NoDQ.com, at least on some platforms, maybe not Twitter, but other platforms he's popular. And on NoDQ, he's pretty popular. Make sure you check out his columns over at NoDQ.com/opinions. We had Pete Dunne come out to the ring with the tag team champs, and he called out Finn Balor. Balor came to the ring and said that Dunne is just hiding behind two clowns. So those guys left the ring, and it was just Dunne and Balor in the ring. And the match was officially made for the NXT TakeOver pay-per-view, which is being called NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. I guess that's a good name. Some people want St. Valentine's Day Massacre, but I guess that's not PG enough, and Vengeance Day is a little bit milder of a name, so they went with that, which is cool. It's a take on the old Vengeance pay-per-view, which they've been doing. They've been recycling the old pay-per-views, which I think is pretty cool. I like the logo. But then the big moment of this, we had the appearance of Edge, the 2021 Men's Royal Rumble winner. He came to the ring and he basically praised Balor, he praised Dunne, and praised the brand. Basically saying that NXT helped motivate him to make a comeback in wrestling. And he said it feels good to be there on NXT. NXT focuses on the second W, while WWE usually focuses on the third letter in the acronym. He talked about AEW, or not AEW, NXT's passion and hunger. And he said because he won the Rumble, he can challenge any champion of his choosing. And he's going to watch the match. He's going to pay very close attention to the Pete Dunne versus Finn Balor match at TakeOver. And who knows, their performance might make him change his mind. Good segment here. I like Edge getting involved in the mix, being on the show. You might as well tease it that he could potentially face somebody from NXT. He should do it anyways. We should see Edge wrestle somebody from NXT just for the hell of it. Let's see Edge open up and face some NXT guys. Why not? We had another announcement that Johnny Gargano would be facing Kishida at Takeover, and Gargano was very upset about this. He ended up attacking Kushida at William Regal's office door, and Kushida fought back. And yeah, I suspect that Gargano will be retaining the North American title, but you never know. We had Toni Storm versus Jessie Comey, and really not much of a match here because Mercedes Martinez ran down to the ring, and there was a huge brawl between the two of them. Io Shirai showed up and was just watching for a while. And then we had Io Shirai do her moonsault to the outside on both of them. So we got moonsaults to the outside on both shows this week. Go figure. We then had Santos Escobar defending the Cruiserweight Championship against Kurt Stallion. And during this match, Scarlett was watching. I guess earlier we had Santos Escobar cutting a promo for his team, Legado del Fantasma, and he made a reference to one of Karrion Kross's lines, which I guess did not sit well with Karrion Kross. We had Scarlett out there, and Escobar eventually picked up the win. After the match, we had Karrion Kross show up. He got in the ring, and he said that he's going to give Escobar the gift of time. And he told Escobar to run along. So, yeah, interesting here that Karrion Kross is targeting the Cruiserweight champion. Not sure where this is going. I found it to be a little strange. I agree with Gary. I'm not really sure what this is going to lead to. Is Karrion Kross going to win the Cruiserweight title? Like, where are they going with this? Seems like an odd pairing. And then Karrion Kross confronted Edge, who was in the parking lot cutting a promo, and Kross brought up how he is going to be taking back the title that he never lost. So why is he targeting the Cruiserweight champion? But he's going to go back for the world title, and that it might not be Balor or Dunn holding the championship in the near future. And Edge was like, well, Kross winning the title might motivate him even more to come back, and he's not sure if that's something that Kross will like. I'd be interested in Karrion Kross versus Edge for the NXT title. I don't know if that's going to happen. If Edge does wrestle, I could see him just wrestling some random person, like, maybe who would be a good opponent for Edge? I mean, really, he'd have a good match with anybody. You could put him in there. Maybe Johnny Gargano. He beats Gargano, something like that. We then had our main event of the evening, which was the Undisputed Era versus Tommaso Ciampa and Tim Thatcher. Ciampa is starting to grow out his hair. Not sure how I feel about that run. I'm one to talk about having hair on the top of my head, but yeah, it kind of makes Ciampa look older. I mean, the beard already kind of made him look a little bit old, but with the hairline, it's not exactly a young man's hairline. So he kind of looks like 10 years older than he actually is. I prefer the bald look personally, but that's just me. And Anthony says, do you think Kross, with the line he told Escobar that he might bring in a cruiserweight with the same wrestling style to challenge Escobar for the title? I mean, it's possible he could do that. Maybe Karrion Kross aligns himself with somebody. I would not rule that out as a possibility. That would be a way to bring in somebody new and have that guy be with Kross. But Kross also kind of comes off like a loner as well. Like I really don't see Kross as the kind of guy that would have sidekicks and whatnot. So anyways, we had our main event match. Really good stuff here, as you would expect from these guys. Back and forth. We had double submissions. Undisputed Era got a near fall on Ciampa, but then Thatcher saved Ciampa and actually took a bullet for Ciampa, and that allowed Ciampa to hit the Willow's Bell, pinned Strong to win the match, and now they advance to the match against the grizzled young veterans in the Dusty Classic. And At the end of the show, they were on the stage. The veterans came out, and there was this huge brawl between them. Well, not really a brawl, but things got a bit heated, and that's how NXT went off the air. Overall, very solid show here from NXT. I enjoyed Edge's appearance, and the Dusty Classic matches were good. So overall, not a bad NXT. I'd probably go with a B-, though. I think I liked AEW a little bit more than NXT. So probably a B- for me, maybe a B, somewhere in there. It was a solid show, not the best NXT by any stretch, but it was fine. It was a fine show. Martin Cruz gives it a B+. Wade Kingston gives it an A. And apparently Nick Glavin cannot grade the show because in Canada it's a week later. Well, are you able to watch the YouTube clips, or is it blocked in your country? I'm curious about that. MVP Kev says a B, same as AEW, and the Game is on 100 also gives the show a B. So that was AEW and NXT this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Again, subscribe if you're watching this on Twitter or Facebook. youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ is how you can subscribe and turn on the notifications so you get updates whenever I have a new video up. We'll keep you posted because sometimes you don't see the new video on the subscriptions page. It happens. But if you turn on that bell, it should make it easier to find out when the latest videos are going to be streaming. And of course, head over to twitch.tv/NoDQDOTCOM, the NoDQ Twitch channel. Got some more content coming up pretty soon. Take care, everybody. Stay positive. Be safe. And I will see you guys next time.